NFC East vet Brian Westbrook back with us. Brian, you know this division, the NFC East, inside and out. You still buying the Cowboys as favorites?
Well, you know, Jenna, I am still buying the Cowboys as favorite, and there's a couple different reasons why. The biggest reason is that they still have all those weapons. Of course, Dak is missing. That's a big part of their offense. But when you talk about CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup, they're still there. Ezekiel Elliott, he's still there. So Andy Dalton does not have to be Superman. He doesn't have to come in and save the day. All he has to do is get the ball out of his hands and get the ball to these weapons. The second reason, this is probably just as important or even more important than the first, is their schedule. Who do they play? When you look at the rest of their schedule, they only have 2 games against teams that have over 500 records right now. We're talking about the Steelers and the Ravens. Everybody else at this point is under 500. These are not very good football teams. This is probably the easiest schedule in the league. Now, when I look at the Eagles, Carson Wentz had a very good game this past week. This is his best game of the season, but they still have to play the Ravens, Browns, Seahawks, Packers, Saints, Cardinals. That's a tough road. That's a tough group of teams to play against, especially when you don't have your main weapons, Deshaun Jackson, Alshon Jeffrey, and Jalen Reagor. And Brandon, the record, the schedule certainly determines how well you're going to play, but you need your weapons if you're Carson Wentz. Right now, he hasn't had them in a very long time.
100%. And speaking on weapons, the reason why the United States is the most powerful country out there is because we have the most powerful military, right? So when you talk about weapons, you know, Red Rifle has everything he needs on that side. But then when you go to Philadelphia and you look at Carson Wentz, Alshon Jeffrey's out, Deshaun Jackson's out, Jalen's out. He's on IR. So he has no help. And Nick, I know you think a lot of this is on him, but not only the wide receivers are missing and they're out, but the offensive line is banged up. He has a new offensive line every single week. So Carson Wentz has no help. Hopefully he can get Deshaun back and Alshon Jeffrey back fast, and that can help him. But right now, because of everything Brian just went through, when you look at that roster in Dallas, that's why they'll win this division.
So to be clear about Carson Wentz, I don't think there's any quarterback in the league who would thrive under the conditions Wentz is currently in. We would look great with that banged up offensive line and these weapons. But I do think the best quarterbacks in the league would look better than he's looked. So I think there's a distinction there. I'm not blaming him for not being great, but I am blaming him for turning the ball over as much as he has, for being, I think he has been particularly bad, even when you adjust for inflation, if you will, adjust for the lack of weapons and the awful shape the offensive line is in due to injuries. So we're going to go 3 for 3 on picking the Cowboys as favorites to win the NFC East, Wilds, leading into you. Because even though their defense did their best to make Danny Drops look like a competent NFL quarterback, and even though 3/5 of their starting offensive line is on IR, the Cowboys still should be able to eke out 8 wins, and I think 7 might win this damn division. And this is a moment for Ezekiel Elliott, who a lot of folks in the smart analytical community said, doesn't matter how great he is, you don't pay a running back that type of money to go earn that money. Not for back pay, not for what he did on his rookie deal, but moving forward. Because they are going to have to become a much more conservative offense, a much more Ezekiel Elliott-centric offense, with Andy Dalton taking some timely play-action shots, which I believe he can do. So I think it is a massive indictment on Philadelphia. I think I'm not going to say it's an indictment on Washington because they're tearing it down and trying to rebuild it. And the Giants have been in rebuild mode for a better part of a decade. So everything about them is an indictment on them. But yeah, even without Dak Prescott and with one of the worst defenses in football, Wilds, I think the Cowboys somehow are still the favorites in this wretched division.
Yeah, I think Andy Dalton is sneaky good, Brian. He went 50-26. He was good. Then he signed a contract, and they were like, you don't need any more of these guys around you. Then he went 20-34, and people like, he's washed. He's not washed. He's going to be 33 at the end of this month. He's younger than Drake, and he's 13 months to the day older than Russell Wilson. So just because Andy Dalton's been in our lives for a long time, it feels like, he's kind of done. I don't think he's done at all. I think he's going to be able to thrive in this offense with how many weapons they have. I don't think he needs to be spectacular. If they fall down by 20, he's probably not going to put up 500 yards like Dak had to. But if the defense tightens up a little bit, maybe he doesn't have to have these otherworldly games, and he just becomes a really competent, I hate to say it, like probably top 50% of the quarterbacks in the league with this offense, Brian.
As long as he's younger than Drake, that's really all that matters. I mean, when you think about things, as long as he can be a little bit younger than him. But I think you're right. Andy Dalton doesn't have to be perfect. He doesn't have to be Superman. He just needs to get the ball out of his hands. If he can do that, that's going to help this football team. And I think you guys bring up a good point. I think Nick brought it up. At this point, this offense is going to have to return a little bit to more the running style of offense. And when you talk about that defense, giving up all the points that they have, maybe if the offense ran a little bit more ball control, running the ball through Ezekiel Elliott, now the defense isn't on the field as much, and maybe they don't look as bad as they have these first few games of the season.
Yeah, I like Andy Dalton in this position. I mean, he has everything he needs to get the job done. Obviously, they're a little banged up on the offensive line, but Andy Dalton is more than capable. This is why you pay a backup this type of money, because he can come in and lean on his experience. The thing that makes Andy Dalton capable is that when he walks up to the line of scrimmage, he's going to know where he should go with the ball right away. Pre-snap, post-snap, he should be able to go right away to number one, number two, or to the check down. And that's why this offense will continue to stay the course and continue to make plays. Now, will they be averaging 509 yards a game? Probably not. No. But they still, with all of those weapons, will still be a problem for most defenses.
Here's the thing that the Cowboys have going for them. There's 32 teams in the league, Brandon. Right now, if Andy Dalton can be the quarterback in football, that might make him the best quarterback in the division. Right? Like now, you don't have... Well, you don't have with the way Wentz is playing. Now, maybe Wentz will get it back together, but the way he's playing, we don't even know who Washington's
100%.
quarterback is. And unfortunately for Giant fans, they know exactly who their quarterback is. You only need to be, you just have to not be awful, and you might be the best quarterback in this division. And so it is, to me, all of these Cowboys conversations, they are a mirror to how bad it's gone in Philly. Because the Cowboys' defense is a wreck, their offensive line is injured, and their quarterback just suffered a horrific injury. And we're like, I still think they got this division in the bag. Which, if you're a WIP caller this morning, you've got to be absolutely furious. But I think they know it's true.
Nick, I want to tell you guys about Carson Wentz really quickly. He looked better this last game. He found a way to put up 29 points against a very good Steelers defense. He's starting to run the ball a little bit more. I still think that he has a ways to go, but he looked a little bit better these last couple games.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.